The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show. Commands were typed into the console at breakneck speed. 20 fingers in perfect mechanical harmony, actively programming the movements of the surgical equipment as they administered medicine, cut flesh, and analyzed every little muscle spasm, every little breath of the patient, while updating this information at light speed. The person in control of this operation knew everything possible about the patient simply by the use of the advanced robotics. Well, that was at least concerning their health. The patient was kept in suspended animation via a cryopod for approximately 19.5 years, in accordance to the data retrieved from the pod. It would have taken an additional 183 days to finally run out of power and then freeze the person kept within. And considering the state they were in, that would have meant death within minutes, perhaps hours. The sleek black visor of the construct commanding the procedure flashed in an ominous red. There was a reason the remains of this human were recovered. A malfunction. Ironic, considering where this part was found. And brought aboard the Kai. A mobile factory vessel of neo-robotics, on its way to assist in the construction of the awakens space station, humanity's biggest space construction project since the erection of the Mars colonies. The awakens space station was to be constructed at the outermost fringes of the solar system, equipped with the most advanced space exploration devices ever created, humanity's key into traveling beyond the solar system. And Neo-Robotics, in cooperation with the Forever Skies Foundation, were so proud to be selected by the Earth government to plan and construct the megastructure so far, far away from home. However, the Kai had a problem. A malfunction caused the factory ship's onboard navigational AI to retire in an area of space where the recovery of the ship, its crew, and materials would cause an immense slowdown of the project due to many of asteroids flying about. But, just as luck so had it, mere days before this very moment, the Kai had discovered the debris of a long-lost spaceship. The retrieval of which was partly to blame on the ship's AI malfunction. But it was this mistake, this bug, that not only saved the life of the cryopoded human, but also possibly would allow the Kai to finish its mission without any more interruptions. As the sole survivor of the crashed vessel was the heavily disfigured captain of the ship. An emergency meeting of the Neo-Robotics Executive AI led to the approval of the life-saving surgery, accompanied by an immediate employment contract to give the Kai's new captain. And you, employee 999-75-11-Alpha-44, had been hand-selected by the AI to proceed with the surgery. Like all employees of Neo-Robotics, you had been heavily enhanced with the corporation's top-of-the-line cybernetics, such as extendable fingers to increase typing speed on command consoles, a second brain which interfaced with your optical lobe and spinal cord, allowing for faster processing of information as well as precision actions, and your good behavior and perfect record with the company even led to you having the privilege of having a vacation chip installed in your brain, which allowed you the pleasure of having a 2 weeks vacation in place of your choosing during a simple 8-hour sleep cycle. The surgery to save Captain Curly was a rather gruesome one. The executive AI demanded that until the captain's capabilities were thoroughly tested, he was not to be given more advanced cybernetics, which in your opinion would only make him a worse captain. Not to mention, the AI was entirely unable to emphasize. This man went through something, if his body was any indication. And you weren't entirely machine just yet, so you felt sorry for him, something the AI wasn't capable of doing. Part of you wanted to purposefully flunk the operation to grant him a merciful death in his sleep, but the Kai was without a pilot, and having to fly out a new ship AI to replace the lost one, or even a real human captain, enhanced or not, would be very costly and only the last option, as you were told. For now, you stabilized him and used your knowledge of human biology to gently awaken him in a state where he would not immediately die of the pain of reawakening. The time loss you made up with by readjusting your sleep schedule for the coming weeks. A grotesque gagging noise came from the man lying on the operation table. You tapped 2 fingers together in thought before deciding to introduce yourself. Would be the most comforting way of continuing this. "Greetings, Captain," you said, using your human voice. It was a little raspy and you were surprised by its sound. You haven't heard your own voice since you joined the company. There was just no need for it, and some of your colleagues even removed their vocal cords due to them being useless. Neo-robotics employees usually utilized a chat program that was directly inserted into their brains. "I am employee number 999-75-11-Alpha-44, a birth name Catherine Kate Hunter." Curly's eye went up and down your body. You're dressed in a skin-tight black leotard, with the Neo-robotics banner woven into its backside, as well as a little name tag. Yes, it was one of the corporation's official uniforms, with your arms, shoulders and thighs exposed, mostly to show off the sleek black metallic prosthetics installed on your body, making you a walking advertisement for them. Your eyes were covered by a black visor that had a constant string of red glowing numbers fly across it. These were a mix of orders and directives given to you, as well as medical information about Curly. The man's eye was shaking with horror and fear. "It has been fallen onto me to take care of your trauma and body. I will ensure that you will be able to live a normal life again. Any questions you may have, please keep them in your mind until I've ensured the functionality of your vocal cords. Of course, you will also be able to utilize Neo-robotics chat function, should you prefer that. However, you won't be given access to that until the necessary systems have been installed in your body." Curly opened his mouth. He was shaking, and a rather gross noise was erupting from his throat. Was this protesting? Perhaps he was afraid, though you didn't understand why. "Please be advised that the moment Neo-robotics reclaimed your body, you have automatically signed a simple employee contract that will be binding you to us until the mission is fulfilled." Smiling, you clapped your hands. "Isn't that great?" You made a respectful bow. "Just freshly employed and immediately given a promotion to captain. I am so jealous." You weren't. Without further ado, you return to your console. I will now continue the procedure. It will take a while. Overall, you had spent 72 hours in the surgery, never taking your eyes off of Curly's vitals. You are stable, but the stress hormones in his body only seemed to increase, which you didn't understand, at least until you realized your error. You were used to patients who could simply put their brains on standby, but he didn't have that luxury. And so, 12 hours into the surgery, you finally administered general anesthesia. Curly managed. He didn't like it though, not one bit. You had installed rudimentary arms and legs, put new skin on him, reconstructed his body based off his ID. His prosthetics just advanced enough to interface with the Kai's bridge controls. He was given access to the Neo-Robotics chat functionality as well, and he was made familiar with the fact that about 700 people lived and worked on the Kai. This truly was a big responsibility. And a true space factory. Strange. But what shocked Curly the most was the kind of people that were on the Kai. Transhumans, they called themselves. People who were unnaturally evolved with the use of technology. The ship of Theseus paradox came to mind whenever he thought about his situation or the people on board. But at the same time, the world didn't seem to have changed one bit over the last 20 years. Corporations still saw money instead of people, just the approach was different. Probably thanks to the being guided by AIs, who saw the bigger picture more than the old greedy CEOs. Long-term profit and efficiency was now the guideline over get rich quick and exploit the worker. Though, still the old motto, we don't just want a lot of money, we want all the money, still applied. And so Curly once again was the captain of a ship, with a crew consisting of what he would consider robotic weirdos. And a reminder of all he had lost, by just simply lowering his gaze, seeing his metal arms and legs. He even had been given a mechanical eye, even though he probably would have preferred an eye patch. He thought about the microchips in his body. There are probably more in there than on the entire tulpa. The contract he was forced to engage with was throat-cutting. The contract he was forced to engage with was throat-cutting, designed for eternal servitude to pay off the debt he gained by getting his involuntary enhancements. At least the food here was better than on a tulpa. Sure, it was even cheaper crap than back then. It was a normally grey sludge made up of soy that could be 3D printed into any meal one could imagine. He really could not tell the difference between a 3D printed turkey and the real thing, and that scared the crap out of him. But it was thanks to it that he essentially could eat whatever he felt like. There also was you. You might have exchanged most of your body for machine parts, but your emotional core was still intact, and you did something Curly didn't expect. Trauma care. By directly interfering with his own memories of the tulpa incident, removing a few tidbits, and artificially adding yourself into them to give him comfort. with his consent, of course. And so he could function. He said nightmares, of course, even if they were interrupted by ads, which honestly made the coping a little easier. After all, having a flashback of Anya dying next to him at the Tulpa and having her just stand up and advertise Neorobotics' newest product line before going back down on the floor again was so hilarious that he could no longer consider it a nightmare. And whenever he caught a glimpse of you, he was happy that you were there. Of course, due to the long surgery, there were 72 unplanned hours that you needed to work off before he could see you again fully one-on-one. And so it was on his 100th day of serving as the Kai's vigilant captain that it happened. Curly was sitting on the rather comfy captain's chair, staring out the window of the bridge. To this day, he couldn't fully grasp it. Windows. Freaking windows showing space. Something the Tulpa didn't have due to structural problems. And they now were a reality for vessels this size? The bridge itself was about the size of the Tulpa's old common room and located on the highest point of the Kai. The entire section was called the Pinnacle. Aside from housing Curly and any high-ranking members of Neo-Robotics, the Pinnacle also contained the immense server farm necessary to power the Kai's AI executives. To Curly's right were 3 navigation robots who were constantly interacting with consoles. And to his left, empty co-pilot chairs. Probably the biggest oversight of the entire operation was that no one at Neo Robotics thought to employ a human captain for the Kai, just in case the AI experienced a critical failure. The door to the bridge opened, and you entered. Curly had formally requested your presence after taking on the reins of the ship. And finally, after 100 days, you are granted enough free time to fulfill the request. You bowed before him. Captain? Curly looked at you and smiled. It is a pleasure seeing you happy. Pleasure's all mine. I was wondering, Kate. You blinked, hearing your real name. You have put upon yourself the burden of my memories and failures, and I guess I just was worried about that. You know, worried about you. Seeing the Tulpa incident through your eyes and emotions and pain was certainly akin to a horror movie. It was unpleasant, to say the least. You grabbed your left shoulder to soothe your mind. I admit I have considered the removal of my emotions to deal with this, but it feels wrong now. Kate? You looked at him and smiled. Sir, my life was boring. I am an office drone through and through. No ambition, no experience, no friends, just colleagues and work. Even my medical knowledge is just a temporary insertion. Once my purpose aboard the Kai is fulfilled, I will be removed. No more cutting off limbs from accidents, no more replacing organs with efficient technology, just typing away on keyboards again. But you stepped closer, and your smile became genuine. I understand that to you it sounds macabre, but you have given me the gift of an experience. Of pain. Of an existence that I never could fathom. You have given me a glimpse of life. Well, I suppose I'm sorry it had to be so painful, Kate. You averted your gaze.
But I desire to experience more now.
I wish to keep my emotions to fully appreciate them whenever they happen. For a moment you stood there, and then took the sides of your visor and lifted off your helmet. The visual overload was replaced by just seeing Curly now, without any interruptions or commands. He goes subtly. Your real face was heavily modified to be appealing. It didn't resemble your real face in any way, shape, or form, but you're okay with that. Sure, the person you looked back in the mirror wasn't you, but at least that person was attractive. And in a way, you are glad Curly only got to see you like this, after you were made pretty. His cybernetic eye was shaking. You had pale skin, 2 mechanical eyes. Your cheeks showed off cables that were put just beneath your skin in the form of long, thin, almost artistic bumps. And you kept your blonde hair in a short bob cut.
I am picking up an increased heartbeat, Captain. Are you alright?
Curly nodded and averted his gaze. I just, didn't expect this conversation to happen, at least not in this direction.
What would you have preferred, Captain?
Honestly, I don't know. He leaned back in his chair. See, even after all these days, I'm not used to speaking with my brain. I'm not used to seeing people just stare at each other and have a full-on conversation at the same time. It all looks so weird, looking at all these
transhumans.
Yeah. He snorted. Back in my day, trans meant something completely different. You tilted your head to the right, questioningly. Just how much can change in just 20 years, huh?
The big breakthrough was the installation of the first corporate efficiency AI. Of course, without the public knowing. Until the public was ready, at least. And if you were to ask the news and historians, we are currently, right now, in the middle of what is referred to as the singularity event. With how emotionless everyone is these days, do you guys even have fun? Like in a way I would describe the word? Of course. Video games still exist, such as Scorbino's Quest. It has sold over 14 million copies. And thanks to a chip in my brain, every time I go to sleep, I have a simulated 14-day-long vacation. On demand, of course. Fine, it's once per month. But at least I can choose the place.
I mean, real fun, you know, doing something. Going on a hike, fishing, you know.
You chuckled. Well, if we put efficiency aside, drugs such as alcohol are very well liked, and hunting has become a widely accepted form of entertainment all around the world, be it via television or participation in the sport. Thanks to cloning technology, many animal species who have long been extinct now freely roam hunting grounds. You smirked. And of course there's copulation.
Curly inhaled sharply. He had genuinely thought by now any form of romance was replaced by breeding pots or something like that. He scratched the back of his head and then admitted, "So like you guys haven't turned into some VR thing?"
You chuckled. I mean, if it's VR you desire.
No, I mean...
Both. We have both.
You explained. Right. Right. He felt awkward.
A simple curiosity, Captain, but do you find me pleasing to the eye?
He gulped loudly. Of course, Kate. He finally admitted. And so you stepped before him. Using the messaging function, you told him the exact code needed for him to take a 30-minute break from his captain's duty. Cully grunted and put a hand over his real eye so he could read the message properly. It was disorienting, having two eyes that functioned differently from each other. And as he read it, he gasped. He knew where this was going, and it was kind of making him excited. Especially as your last text was accompanied by an eggplant and a peach emoji. Jeez, as advanced as humanity became, the use of these little pictures had remained the same. It was comforting, in a way. Processing. With bated breaths, he stared at the computer working after the code was typed in. And then the timer just started. So, how do you, do I put a USB drive anywhere, or... He didn't get to finish a sentence as he sat down on his lap. Okay, I can work with this. Your body was made heavy by the prosthetics, as well as the internal machinery inside you. Your arms wrapped around his strong shoulders. And you kissed him, holding him tightly. Curly, meanwhile, accepted your touch. He reveled in it. Gentle and beautiful. Your tongue was soft and definitely biological. Honestly, I'd been skeptical a little. With all those wires visible under your skin, he thought he wasn't exactly sure what he expected. Maybe an electric shock? But this was surprisingly normal, or at least his normal. It was good, even. He could feel your metallic hand push against his jaw, your thumb rubbing gentle circles into his chin. Your control over the additional strength granted by the mechanical arms was remarkable. Curly still squeezed soda cans way too tightly, making them explode sometimes. Humming, you leaned back on his lap, taking hold of the zipper of his uniform. It was a black cotton jacket military cheek, something upper management wore as uniforms. With a neo-robotics pin secured on the right side of his chest. Beneath, he wore a simple white shirt. Curly exhaled through his mouth. Sure, you had seen him naked, but that was during the reconstruction of his body. But as you pulled off his shirt, a thought came to him. What if this demonstration of lust and passion was just you reveling in your reconstructive work? Well, at least it would fit the picture he had gotten from you. Hell, why bother with the details? As your metal fingers rubbed over his strong, slightly hairy chest, Curly took hold of the shoulder straps of your leotard, pulling them down, revealing your chest to him. Beneath, it was a sports bra, as, honestly, you thought copulation would happen with him eventually, just not right now. Not that you minded it, of course. After all, you were the one who suggested it. Purring, you twisted a knob on his chest, making him groan and smirk. Admiring your work, Kate? He hissed, pleased. Well, you said, once again pushing forward, kissing me on the mouth before saying, one must take pride in their work, right? Or else we might as well kill ourselves.
Your hand reached for his pants, and he shuddered. It would be a shame if you were disappointed in my work. Curly grinned. I had a feeling it was bigger, but I wasn't sure if I was just misremembering. Coyly, you nipped at his ear, causing him to shudder. Now, Captain, show me my hard work. I need to make sure everything is pumping just right.
Hey, you watched the video until the very end. That's very kind of you. But before I say goodbye, I have to shout out all of my lovely channel members, especially my high-ranking darling stewards, who get a members-only video every month. Join the tier for just $4.99. Anyways, we have Nicolai Hatcher, Maxi Cat, Alison Watkins, Bella Mare, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. Thank you for supporting me. Also, thank you to everybody else who is supporting me. You are keeping me alive.